Hi everyone, this is Chris Barnes from East Brunswick Public Library, and this is the first episode of the second season of Read, Watch, Listen, where we talk to people in our community about what they've been reading, watching, and listening. Today we have a very special guest. It is East Brunswick's very own mayor, Brad Cohen. Mayor Cohen, thank you for being on our podcast today.
Thank you, Chris. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for taking some time out to talk with us. Now, if you follow Mayor Cohen, you can see he's everywhere in the town. Obviously, it's an extremely busy job to be the mayor. He's everywhere, and you're still a practicing doctor. So, Mayor Cohen, as busy as you are, how do you find time to read and to just, enjoy media?
I think that, isn't there a saying that when you want a job done, you give it to somebody who's got a messy desk because they usually know how to get everything done. So I'm just one of those people. If I don't have a schedule in front of me with everything being filled, I really think that I must have forgotten something or I've missed something. So it's just a matter of managing your schedule well. My schedule for my office hours are fairly consistent. It's also nighttime appointments for the mayor's office and weekends. So it doesn't mean that there's not free time in between all of those things. And that's when you need to sort of let your hair down and maybe turn off the cell phone and either read something or watch a movie or listen to some music, exercise, get out and let your mind rest. And I do get that.
I do think it's a good tip is to shut off the cell phone. I find myself always looking at it for fear of missing out.
Yeah, I don't know how we ever live without it, to be honest with you.
Oh, I know. All right, well, we're going to back now into the meat of the show. It's what you've been reading. So, Mayor Cohen, what was the last good book you read?
Well, actually, the last one I reread was a book written by Michael Kesler called Shards of War, which is a true story. And as you may know, Chris, he was a really prominent member of our community and passed away at the ripe old age of 96 or 97. He's a survivor during World War II. And his story is a little bit different. As many Holocaust survivors' individual experience was a little bit different in the middle of such a epic horror. But his was unique in the sense that he was never in a camp. He was somebody who fortunately was able to escape within really minutes ahead of the German front and ended up working his way through Europe, ultimately to Uzbekistan, all the way just minutes to hours ahead of the German front. So it was a harrowing experience that he and his sibling had gone through. And I just find the story to be so eye-opening because we just went through pandemic here. Hopefully the worst of it is behind us. And all I hear about is how everybody was suffering and everybody never had to experience anything as difficult as this before. And here you sit and read the story of maybe 2 generations ago, not that long ago in the greater scheme of history. And it just puts it all in perspective. A lot of people, unfortunately, have succumbed to the disease, but we had all the modern conveniences. We have vaccines and treatments and ways to communicate, ways to conduct business, and we're able to get outdoors and connect to one another through social media or through computers or many, many different things that were never available. So I guess it makes me have to think that you have to put life and all of your experiences into a perspective. And when you read about history and those before us that have gone through such harrowing experiences, it puts all of that into its proper perspective.
That's a great choice. I read that book too. It's such a powerful story, and his writing style was so straightforward, and it was a really good read, and I highly recommend that. And I'm glad that you recommended it.
Yeah, and he's written other books. His wife died of cancer years ago, but she was also a survivor. And her story, I forget the name of her book, but it was also very personal. But my father-in-law was a survivor himself. His story was unique and different. He actually was in a camp. And so clearly everybody went through this horrible period of time, but each one had a unique and different experience. And there's something to be learned from that. And I think that that's what draws me to the history books and movies and stories more than anything, because some of the real life stories, you couldn't make that stuff up. And besides learning from it, there is an entertainment value to them because it's hard to believe they were actually true. I find myself leaning in that direction most of the time, whether it's a movie or a book. I find those the most fascinating.
No, that's a great choice. We're going to segue now. What was the last good thing that you watched, whether it was a movie or a TV show?
I think all of us have gotten sort of addicted to the Netflix series and the Hulu series and Amazon series because being at home all these months, you've been able to have time to actually go through a whole series. And so I was watching CNN had a whole story about Princess Diana, which I found very interesting because, again, it goes to show you that what you were learning and listening to at the time when these events were taking place and the way the media may have portrayed things to you are often very different than the way they actually are. And in the political climate that we're living in today, where people are being fed information from the media, either side of the media, we need to take a look and recognize that it might not be so entirely accurate. And real life is probably somewhat different than what you're being given out by the media. And if it happened in the past, in less controversial stories than in the ones that we're living in today, I would place my bet on the accuracy of the information you're being given. Don't take everything at face value. And I find that stories like this that go back and look at historical events that I've lived through and then find out how different it was than the way it was being portrayed tells you something as a lesson to the things you're hearing about right now.
That's a good choice. All right, and we're going to wrap it up with our third question. Mayor Cohen, what have you been listening to?
I have a wide variety of music that I listen to. I don't really listen to podcasts too much. I actually am trying to get into some, but more often than not, I listen to a wide variety of music, whether I'm outdoors running or walking or jogging. It just lets me get my mind off of the daily grind. It gives my brain a chance to rest. And my music is very varied. I could listen to classical music. I could listen to rock. I could listen to hip hop, which my kids laugh at because they say, I can't believe that my 61-year-old dad's listening to this stuff. And country music, which I've started to enjoy. So my musical taste is very varied, but it's an escape for me. I've always loved the arts. I've always loved music. I was a musician in high school. I was one of those band geeks that my kids love to call me. So I was really into all of that. And it's my safe place and a chance to get into a Zen mode and relax. So that to me is my way of relaxing and take a chance to regroup and I guess let the battery recharge.
Do you have a go-to musician that you listen to when you go jogging?
Not really. I like to just put it on shuffle and whatever comes up. I like the variety. So no, I don't have any specific one. I guess I'm still a Jersey guy, so I do like my Springsteen.
Well, in New Jersey, that's what you have to do. It's a prerequisite to live in the...
I would think so, right. I mean, I'm really a Jersey guy. I grew up in Jersey my whole life. I think other than my 4 years of college, everything that I've ever done, whether it's medical school, I did business school, everything has been in New Jersey other than my 4 years of college. And that was in Muhlenberg, which is in Allentown, which is literally 15 minutes out of the Jersey border. So I never really strayed that far. So I'm a real Jersey guy.
No, it's true. New Jersey is the greatest state in the country.
It is. I really believe that.
It is. We have everything. That wraps up this week's episode of Read, Watch, Listen. Mayor Cohen, thank you again for being our special guest this week. You can check out our previous episodes online at ebpl.org/podcast. We look forward to having more episodes. Again, Mayor Cohen, thank you for being our guest today. For East Brunswick Public Library, I'm Chris Barnes. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to our producer, Melissa Hosick, for making this sound great. See you at the library.
Thanks, Chris.